If you're in your early 60s with around 500,000 and wondering whether you can realistically retire right now, this video is for you. I've helped clients who had millions of dollars and still struggled to pull the trigger, and others with much smaller accounts who will retire confidently the moment they're ready. The difference was not luck, it was just the way they prepared. So today I'm going to walk you through a simple 6-point checklist you can use to ultimately help you retire peacefully. Now, you don't technically need to cross off every single box perfectly to retire soon, but it does seem that each one you are able to check off makes the path a whole lot easier. So let's get into it. The first thing that I would do is eliminate debt entirely. Now, this isn't a rule that has to be followed 100% of the time. If you have low interest debt, like a mortgage at a great rate, and you're completely comfortable carrying it, you can afford the payment, maybe you're even earning more somewhere else, then yes, of course, you may be an exception. But even then, I do always try to point out, if paying that off and ultimately making a little less money because that gives you more peace of mind is worth it to you, pay it off. Plain and simple. But for most people, that's not what's happening. Carrying high interest credit card debt, borrowing for non-essentials, that's different. That is a habit that tends to quietly weaken your entire retirement foundation. Because even if you run the numbers, you have a great plan, if you start overspending due to those bad habits, well, things can go south quickly. Now, on the other hand, if you can break that habit, everything that comes next in this checklist becomes easier, clearer, and far more realistic. Now, number two, I never hear this talked about online anywhere, but it's a huge one. I'd have a serious conversation with the loved ones I may be responsible for helping financially. Genuinely, this one I hear all the time. A couple wants to retire or have a planned retirement date, but they just have no idea how things are going to pan out with helping their parents. And usually worse, there is no real communication with them on how this may work. Parents, kids, siblings, anyone who may need support from you financially, these are the people to have conversations with. This is one of the biggest blind spots for new retirees. You've got to ask the hard questions, keep the conversation going again and again. What's the worst case scenario? How can we prepare for this together? Would you be willing to pick up extra work if needed? Would other family help? Trust me and the millions of retirees in this situation on this one, I've helped people walk through this, and sometimes a simple conversation can be the difference between retiring today and unnecessarily working 5 more years. As an example, one couple that I was working with not too long ago was stressed because of all the extra expenses that they were currently incurring, sending money to their parents who they don't want to just leave on the streets. They want to help them in their later years. They felt like not only that they didn't have any idea of how to plan for this because it is so variable, but also that they physically couldn't make any sort of plan because they just didn't know how it was going to turn out. They also had a tough time even when having conversations with their parents. They just weren't so receptive to the conversation because it's kind of on them and not their parents. At least that's the way their parents view it. And this is another common one we see all the time. Fast forward to today, what we were actually able to do is kind of map out what those expenses might look like, what the worst case scenario might be, and then projecting that far beyond any sort of reasonable life expectancy for those parents, and see how this would affect their overall probability of success of being able to retire. And when we did that, what we were able to find out for them specifically is they were more than fine. Again, it seemed like this big stressor because it's such a high amount, at least it seems like it, but when they ran the numbers through retirement software, they saw that their probability of success of not running out of money in retirement, even if they did do that at their planned date, wasn't actually going to affect things too much, and they would actually be able to comfortably retire. And this brought them tons of peace of mind. Now, if you're nodding along and find yourself in a similar spot, I'm curious, leave a comment below. What's the biggest struggle you've had with trying to sort out how you're going to get help or help family financially? Now, number 3, and this one makes a huge difference if you're doing it yourself, especially, I'd simplify my accounts. Old 401ks, scattered IRAs, stray brokerage accounts. This is where people lose track of where things are, how much they have, fees, risks. Consolidating accounts, basically just kind of makes retirement so much easier to manage. It's just having fewer moving parts. And as a little bonus here, I would also make sure my emergency funds or cash bucket is not just sitting in a low interest account. This is just losing money. Now next, let's talk about something quick that can save some real money. Number 4 is I'd audit any miscellaneous existing insurance policies. Home, auto, umbrella, life, disability, everything. A lot of people in their 60s are massively overspending on outdated or unnecessary policies. This is a 30-minute check that can save you hundreds or thousands of dollars per year. And hey, it puts more money back into your retirement cash flow. Now, those last two were just simple fixes. But if you're sitting there and thinking, all right, Daniel, these tips are nice, but I just want to boil it all down to one simple thing I can do to see if I can retire and not all these fancy tricks. Can I do that? The answer is yes. It's the last point I'll go over at the end, so sit tight. But first, number 5, and this is probably where the most money gets saved. I would map out my expenses aggressively. Not the ballpark number, not the, I think I spend about X a month. If you want to retire comfortably on way less money than you thought possible, you need to know, at least initially, exactly your monthly spending, your miscellaneous annual recurring expenses like maybe life insurance or subscriptions, your additional wiggle room needed for travel, home/car repairs, hospital trips, gifts, etc. And most importantly, on top of all those, what you've actually spent in the last 2 years. So this is where all the estimations, the numbers just can't lie. Credit card statements, bank statements, pull them out. Let's see what it's actually been. So this right here is going to be the backbone. We can run numbers through software, but if this is terribly wrong, our estimation of what our expenses are, it's all done incorrectly. Finally, number 6, and this is where it all comes together if you wanted to boil it down to one simple thing. Get your expenses down to 4% of your nest egg plus Social Security plus pensions at a minimum. Okay, so simply put, if you had $500,000, 4% of that is $20,000 a year, or you could just divide it by 25, that's $20,000 a year, plus, let's say you can receive $2,000 a month from Social Security, that's $24,000 a year, plus maybe you've got a small pension paying you $500 a month, that's $6,000 a year. 20,000 plus 24,000 plus 6,000, assuming they all adjust for inflation and before taxes, if those can cover your expenses, you're probably good. Now, I'll still say you might not even need to drop your expenses that low. It's just the baseline formula. There are strategies where you can add in additional guaranteed income streams. You could switch up your withdrawal strategy. You could see how claiming Social Security a little bit earlier or a little bit later may affect things. Now, what's the only way that you can do this though? You buy your own retirement software, you run projections, you make spreadsheets, or you get help. And really, don't be afraid to do this. I hear the questions all the time. When can I retire? When should I claim Social Security? And they're overwhelmed. They're hard questions to answer, but they also don't want to deal with some slimy financial advisor or pay fees to do this. And who would? But really, until you get professional help from someone you trust dearly, you can almost be certain that you're missing out on extra money, extra years retired, extra peace of mind, and more. So truly, I encourage you, get help. With that said, if you would like our help in putting this together for your own situation, bringing peace to your finances so you can focus on what matters most, your faith, your family, etc., I'll leave our website link at the top of the description, or you can scan the QR code on screen now if you're watching on a television and schedule an introductory conversation with myself. No financial information needed. Feel free to look through our website, FAQs, frequently asked questions, all that. It's all on there, and I'll see you there.